So I want to share with you what drew me, my interest and my family to geography, but I also am going to be showing you some curriculum that we have used and some other things that have really opened our eyes to the importance of it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am a homeschool mom. This is our 17th year, so I have graduated too. And this school year, I have another senior and I have a middle schooler, a 7th grader. So that is sort of one reason I'm going to talk about middle school specifically with geography, but also a couple other things. I started thinking about geography, and what really drew me to it was I grew up in church and we always had an emphasis on missions. We had a missions conference every year. We had missionaries sometimes even stay with us. So knowing about different countries was very interesting to me. And then as I had my kids, and we also are in a church that has a big missions emphasis and has conferences every year, I really wanted them to understand. So I would start with a huge map. Actually, I found one that would sort of lay across the kitchen table, something like this. And then we would sort of figure out where we were and then the different missionaries, what countries they were from, and point things out and just talk about it a little bit. But then as they got older and I began homeschooling, we would continue to do that. But then I discovered the books, Christian Heroes, Then and Now. And that really just opened our eyes to missions and wanting to know more about geography. I'm going to share just a little bit about these and then share some other curriculum that I enjoy using for the middle school ages. And then I'm going to come back and talk about these a little bit more because I do have the early Christian Heroes, Then and Now, what most of us are familiar with. I have also the CDs, and I have one of their international adventures. So I do want to mention the thing that probably drew my attention to these a little bit was I didn't know a whole lot about them until probably my oldest was in middle school, and I went to my first homeschool convention and they had a huge table full of these. So that was probably the beginning. I think we may have had a couple of them just because of curriculum, but this was one of the books that really drew us to the geography part. Now this is the CD. I don't know where the book is for this. I know we have the book about Wilfred Grenfell. He was more in the North Seas and went to Labrador, which is the northeast part of Canada. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, I need a map. I need to know what's going on because all of this area was not real familiar territory to me. So I was able to get online and find a map sort of his travels and print that off and sort of look at it and discuss it as we read through this book. So there's an idea for geography, but I'll come back to this in a few minutes, and I just want to mention a few other things that we have used. One thing that we have used is the geography from Memoria Press, and I'm going to link a picture here. When my son was in 6th grade, he was asking specifically about wanting to understand, as we are studying history, how the countries came together. Like, how did they become a country? And we were really sort of probably in Europe at the time when he started asking that question. So I decided I need to search this out a little bit. That is a very good question. And it's interesting how that logic sort of starts to sink in as they hit those ages. So I found Memoria Press, their geography talks about each country individually, how it sort of started and became, and a little bit of information about it now, and then you're also mapping out in a workbook. So he really enjoyed that, and I've used at least the first one with all my boys, and my last son used a couple of their Memoria Press books through I think actually the 5th and 6th grade years he used those. But I really highly suggest those if you're just looking for somewhere to start with really just understanding where the countries sort of all came together. I want to mention also the geography that we are using or have used for my boys through the middle school years, all the way through 8th grade. And that would be Map Trek. Now, this is how it used to be sold. and they have it in book form now, and I'll share that with you in a minute. But this is part of our curriculum that we use, Heart of Dakota, so they actually have it scheduled in. And I'll just show you what my son's looks like. I have it in the notebook. So we are studying early American history this school year. So this is just like the very first map he did. And then he would follow along with the teacher's map. So he would just sort of fill out as we study about history. Now, the great thing is that Master Books actually has this all in book form. And I seen this at the homeschool convention earlier this spring, and they have the teacher's book. So once you buy the teacher's book, I would assume that you would always be able to keep that. And then they had the consumable student's book, which would be all the maps in there. So I'm not sure if you could copy them or if you have to buy one for each student, but I think it would be a great add-in if you do not have some form of geography with your history. So that is another way that we have been studying geography through the middle school grades. Okay, back to the Christian heroes then and now. I do want to inform you that it is not just missionaries. They do have historical ones. Like we have one on Ronald Reagan and Benjamin Rush. I know we have some others also that my boys really enjoy, that you can incorporate for sure geography into those, because there's a couple ways you can do that, and I'm going to tell you in just a minute. But I also want to share the books with you, and I'm going to tell you why. I do have a 10% off coupon that I'm going to link below that you can use for YWAM, and that's who puts the Christian Heroes Then and Now books out. I do have a few other types of books, but this is what we use in our homeschool. And let me show them to you. There's different books for different ages, and they do have the heroes for young readers, which I would say would definitely be early elementary. And they're more pictures, and they're more written like in a poetic stanza form. So I just wanted to share that with you. There's about 30 pages in this one. Now, so this would be the younger version. Now, they have this version, which these books, they say, are for ages 8 to 12. And I have a hard time with that because I definitely feel like they're more appropriate for middle school, unless you're using them as a read aloud. Not that the reading for like an 8-year-old could not read it, but I don't know the comprehension. And let me know if you're familiar with these and if you have younger children that read them. Now, I did hear the author recently talk about how she does have young readers tell her that they are reading these, but she also has adults. And I know for me personally, I really enjoy these. And we also have a lot of the audios. They have all the books, as far as I know, all of them have them on audio. So that is one thing that this one we actually listened to as we were traveling. My husband was with me, and we enjoyed it so much. And we learned so much about D.L. Moody, which we were familiar with, but there is so much in this book that I was glad we were listening, because it sort of puts everything together for you. When you're reading something in a history book, I feel like you're missing some things, and listening to their specific stories and hearing where they traveled and what they did really helps put everything in perspective and understand the era that they lived in. So we really, really enjoyed that one. We've enjoyed them all. So I wanted to tell you that I really highly suggest these more for the middle school age. And they also have these international adventures. Yes, these would be the same idea, the same story, but this is Brother Andrew, who got saved a little bit later and then was able to carry Bibles into different countries, and he has a book called God Smuggler. Now, in this particular book, from what I understand, my oldest son read this book. I have not read this book, but I have read this one or listened to it. I cannot remember. I think we listened to it, me and my 7th grader now. But this book has the original story in it, but then it also has little sections in there where you can read about maybe a different missionary. So I know my son really enjoyed this book, but he did say that these little extras were a little bit distracting for him. And he's like, Mama, I'm really not reading those. And I'm like, it's fine. It's okay. But at the same time, maybe if you were doing this as a family, as a read aloud, they would be more enjoyable. So I think he just wanted to read the story. So I did want to share that they have several different books for different age groups. If you're interested in any of these, I am going to put a 10% coupon code. If you could use that, that would help me out some as an affiliate with them. Like I said, we have so many of these books. Now, for the geography part, you're like, Rachel, that's great learning about these people, but how are you applying this to geography? Okay, so really by middle school, my boys have done a lot of geography. They understand the different continents, the different countries, and through the Memoria Press books, they've gone through most of the countries and even through their history. They're learning so much. But for example, with these, they have some things that you can print off. I think they're extra purchases and activities that you can print off to do with these. Also, for me personally, like I said in the beginning, that book, just printing off a map, you can easily find like David Livingstone, the different areas that he went through in Africa, and to learn more about that. And here's another one, C.T. Studd, who also went to Africa. And one that we really enjoyed was Florence Young. So printing off some things to study and make sure you understand the era, the time of in history that these missionaries were alive, and traveling is very interesting also. So another one from Australia was John Flynn, and that was a little bit more modern because he actually flown during World War II. There's so many ways to use these, not just your history, but also printing off some maps, making sure you understand where they traveled. You could just use a regular map of that particular country and just sort of trace it and mark it as you're either reading out loud. Maybe they want to find on the map as they're reading the books themselves. So I hope that is helpful and understanding the importance of geography, just learning about all these different people that have, some of them traveled the world, some of them God called them to very remote places that we probably would not know much about if it wasn't for their story. And that's the exciting part, is reading through these, you get to understand and learn about the different countries more specifically, and also in the form of history. All right, just wanted to share that with you. And if you're interested, check out my link below. And I'll also link Memoria Press's geography and the map trek from Master Books. All right, I do appreciate you all watching. If you have anything for middle school geography that you love, please share below. Or if you have any questions, I would love to chat with you, comment below. And if you are new here, I would love for you to join us by subscribing. And if this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again soon.